There's no reason to do this on city streets and in front of businesses and houses.
Residents frustrated as a familiar problem pops up once again, where street racing disrupted traffic this weekend and what the city is doing about it. Community leaders say they're not so sure about the mayor's plan to keep young people away from crime this summer. We hear their concerns as another juvenile falls victim to gun violence. And city school leaders will face the city council this week over troubling test scores. What to expect from that hearing.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. We are following two big stories tonight, including the relentless juvenile violence as another teenager is shot in the city. Fox 45 News is looking into what could be behind this disturbing trend and what can be done to stop it. Plus, as summer gets closer, a familiar problem popping up yet again in Baltimore City and beyond: dirt bikes and street racing. Now, Fox 45 News has been following this issue for years. We have seen and heard dozens of examples of street racers and stunt drivers blocking roadways throughout Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live now as this seasonal problem starts up once again. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, a new law just in time for summer, described as the toughest in the state, but many are skeptical things will change.
Too fast, too furious. Illegal street racing caught on camera this week at Lancaster Street and South Central Avenue.
Overall, it's chaos.
A new law not working. In October, the mayor signed a law which bans obstructing streets, racing, or stunt driving. Written by Councilman Isaac Yitzi Slifer.
There's actually a new law in place that's a pretty strict law. It's the strictest in the state.
Up to $1,000 fine and up to 12 months in jail. But residents are already doubtful the new law will solve the city's old problem.
I'm in the middle of this dumb stuff.
This is just another law that's not going to be enforced. There's going to be no prosecutions, no holding anyone accountable.
Joy Vanoni says as the weather has warmed up, he's gotten less sleep because of the noise.
These guys, I mean, they'll do it 10, 11 o'clock at night, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, they're on their own schedule.
And it's not just his personal life affected.
Hope you guys enjoy your slices.
He says his pizza shop is as well.
Mike, we have 2 cheese and 1 pep. These people are trying to just sit down, enjoy dinner, go out for some drinks, relax. And these guys are blocking the intersections, doing wheelies, you know, just smoke everywhere.
He fears the dangerous stunts and squealing tires could lead to dire consequences.
They're going to hurt somebody, hurt themselves.
Despite that concern.
And I'm just sick and tired of it.
Vanoni is ready for change as summer approaches and the days get longer.
There's no reason to do this on city streets and in front of businesses and houses.
Now, Councilman Slifer tells Fox 45 News that BPD is rolling out a presentation to all districts on how to enforce that law. Now, it'll be interesting to note that BPD is already almost 500 officers short. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. And take a look at this video from Baltimore County. Video posted to YouTube shows 2 cars colliding while doing donuts. It happened near Security Square Mall. Seconds later, a fight breaks out. Baltimore County police say this incident happened last month. They say one of the cars involved was stolen. Well, Fox 45 News has heard from both the dirt bike riders and street racers who have said the new law in the city won't deter them.
It's like, okay, we're gonna go do it somewhere else. They should expect that. We're gonna go do it somewhere else.
I just ride my dirt bike for fun, for real. But they're illegal. I mean, I do it for fun. It ain't illegal to me.
During the legislative session, lawmakers in the State House passed a bill that would have increased penalties for street racing and stunt driving statewide. That bill would have upped the penalty to up to 1 year in prison or a $1,000 fine. Vincent mentioned it, but it failed in the Senate. Now, if you see street racing, stunt driving, or dirt bikes in your neighborhood and you can safely take pictures and videos, we want to see them. Scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to our website, where you can send them to us, or use your Fox 45 mobile app. Just click the Explore tab and then chime in. Meanwhile, 7 people have been shot in Baltimore since Friday night. They are all expected to survive. One of those victims is a 15-year-old boy. Police say he was shot in the area of Baltimore and Gilmore Streets early this morning. Now, that 15-year-old is one of at least 31 young people who have been shot in Baltimore and survived so far this year. 9 juveniles have lost their lives to the violence. The latest life lost, 12-year-old Jalen Richards. He was killed 1 week ago. Fox 45 News has heard from several of his family members who say older people recruited Jalen into a life of crime.
Big people that don't want to take charges and say you're a 12-year-old that you will come home. They still was dragging my baby to the streets because he was a minor.
Carjacking. They had him carjacking. These older children, Jalen don't know how to drive. He was just hanging along for the ride. And them older people had already got a catch on him.
Now, Fox 45 News spoke with law enforcement experts who say gang recruitment in Baltimore City is common, but city leaders won't address the problem, often shying away from using the word gang.
This has always been a city where politicians and people in positions of power have seemed to want to protect their position and their image more so than address the problem.
When I was commissioner, the mayor tried to tell me, don't say there are gangs. I refused. We have gangs. They're violent gangs. They're deadly gangs. They're the cause for all the misery in the city. Why would you not acknowledge that?
Well, now Mayor Brandon Scott is pushing a series of expanded city services to young people to stay away from crime. During his State of the City address last week, he introduced a comprehensive summer youth engagement strategy. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart explains why one community organizer already has reservations about the plan.
We are prioritizing the safety.
Mayor Brandon Scott is expanding the kinds of juvenile services offered by the city of Baltimore, laying out strategies designed to steer young people away from guns and violence. But promises of turning a new corner is something community organizer Munir Bahar says he's heard before.
Baltimore is not going to turn around because of some administration comes in with these promises. We've seen it year after year after year after year.
Bahar's organization focuses on leading boys in areas with high crime rates away from the violence they've grown accustomed to.
For the past 8 years, we've seen that the problem of violence, especially youth-involved violence, is not being solved by a government agency. Where does the responsibility really lie?
During the address, Mayor Scott announced a comprehensive summer youth engagement strategy that includes extended summer hours at city rec centers and a violence intervention partnership with several area hospitals. He also doubled down on improving education, touting the city's $393 million school system budget, an 11% increase, mainly due to an investment required by the state.
We look at past performance of Baltimore City, past promises of funding allocation, whether it's in schools, whether it's in parks and recs. I mean, all these promises of funding allocations have not yet yielded the results.
This as young people make up a growing share of Baltimore's gun violence victims. This year, already 9 children have been shot and killed. That includes a 12-year-old boy killed last week. How much of the onus needs to be put on parents to help make sure that these people, 15, 16, 14-year-olds, are not getting caught up in gun violence and gang violence?
The majority of these young folks that are engaged in this behavior, they're not controlled by parents. They're not coming from households with a sober mom and a sober father or a sober grandparents. You know, we got to own the fact that we have thousands of kids that are in the system, whether it's foster care system, that are being raised by drug addicts.
Munir says there is plenty of accountability to go around. But for him, the jury is still out as to whether this rollout of expanded services will drive a wedge between teens and gun violence. However, he's not holding his breath.
Theoretically, yes, we need stronger parents, we need better schools, but if we keep putting energy into areas that have clearly shown to be a failure, who's the insane people?
Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
We want to hear from you. Do you have confidence in city leaders to get crime under control this summer? So far, 100% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Now, the rising juvenile violence, a big topic of conversation during our Your Voice, Your Future town hall earlier this month. During that event, former Mayor Sheila Dixon pointed to the Baltimore City public school system.
There's not accountability in the home. Over the last 10, 15 years now, the school system is deplorable.
Project Baltimore has been uncovering failures within some city schools for years. A report found 23 city schools where 0 students among those tested are proficient in math. And a city council committee will hold a hearing in response to that very report on Thursday. But will they really address it? Back in 2021, the council had held an investigative hearing on the internal report into Augusta Fells High School showing ghost students and grade changing. But no council person mentioned the school by name during the hearing. Just one mentioned the problems confirmed by the school system. Council members instead asked about things like soap dispensers in schools.
Curious how we're doing around stocking soap in all of our schools.
How do we get great, wonderful, supportive teachers?
From your perspective, what do we mean by organizational excellence?
Fox 45 News will follow Thursday's hearing. Our commitment to you is to hold our leaders accountable for the problems within the Baltimore City school system and beyond. We'll bring you complete coverage of the hearing both on air and online. And when it comes to those test scores, Project Baltimore found the state removed the data from public view following their initial reporting on the scores. You can find much more about that on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
It was just very frightening for everybody on the whole plane.
Some tense moments in Ohio today when a plane was forced to make an emergency landing. Why it had to turn around just minutes after takeoff.
Hunter Biden's attorneys want an update in the 5-year investigation into his business dealings, as House Republicans say they, too, have new questions.
And it looks chilly for the morning rush hour. Get a load of this. Temperatures back down in the low to mid 40s, maybe even some 30s. Could even have some frost and maybe even over the Pennsylvania line, some freeze conditions. We also have the Aurora Borealis occurring tonight. I'm going to let you know what your chances are of seeing it in my Weather Authority forecast.
President Joe Biden is expected to announce his campaign for re-election this week. An issue that could follow him along the way is the foreign business dealings of his son Hunter. On Friday, CNN reported lawyers for Hunter Biden have asked the Department of Justice for an update in the long-running investigation. As national correspondent Christine Frizzell reports, it will come as other investigations into Hunter Biden are picking up steam.
I still want to be like last week.
House Republicans say they're seeking new information after speaking with former CIA Director Michael Morrell about this October 2020 letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials suggesting stories in the New York Post detailing emails on a laptop purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden had, quote, all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation.
It wasn't just their names on that letter, on that statement. It was their names and their title. Former head of ODNI, former CIA director. That letter became the basis for keeping this information from the American people.
Congressman Jim Jordan demanding document detailing how the letter came about, even suggesting the Biden campaign helped strategize about it. The White House denies involvement, releasing a transcript from the House Judiciary Committee showing Morrell says he was not asked by the campaign to produce the letter, which later turned out to be wrong. Hunter Biden's laptop and the contents on it, real. Hunter Biden's legal team reportedly meeting with the Justice Department this week, seeking an update in what is now a 5-year investigation. As a new report suggests, a whistleblower inside the IRS says the Hunter Biden probe is being mishandled for political reasons. Prosecutors likely weighing 2 misdemeanor charges, one for failing to file taxes and another for making false statements to purchase a gun.
A possibility of having violated federal gun laws because he purchased a weapon when, in fact, he had a serious drug problem.
House Republicans making headway in their separate investigation, which includes suspicious activity reports for Hunter Biden.
What we quickly learned
from going through the thousands of pages of bank violations that this family was involved in, there are 9 Biden family members and counting.
President Joe Biden is expected to make an announcement about his re-election this week, which could complicate things if charges against his son are filed. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
Well, the military evacuated U.S. diplomats and their families from the capital of Sudan. Other U.S. civilians in the country could still be in danger, though, as battles between 2 rival military factions stretch into a second week. The chairman for the Senate Intelligence Committee says the roughly 16,000 Americans still in the country are aid workers or dual citizens. He's urging those in the war-torn nation to shelter in place while the United States arranges their evacuation.
All right, things looking a little chilly overnight as skies clear just a bit, which is going to be some good news for what I'm going to talk about here in a second. Our next weather maker comes late week. That means maybe Wednesday, Thursday, a slim chance of a shower, better chance of some rain for Friday. And those leftover showers with that cooler trend could continue all the way into the weekend, next weekend. And yes, with some of that clearing sky, we've had an abnormally strong solar storm going on. So that means, yes, potentially as far south as Maryland, maybe even as far south as the southern Appalachians, if they can get some clearing skies in there, they could be seeing, and we could be seeing, potentially the aurora borealis tonight. Right now, it's mostly cloudy. We have had a little bit of clearing from time to time, so it's worth taking a look. Take a look up, take a look towards the northern horizon away from city lights, and that will be your best chance at seeing this if they're out there. It's still kind of uncertain. I'll get to that in a second. But nonetheless, the Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam says it's 51, winds out of the northwest at 11, dew point at 27, so it's dry, it's crisp. 51 here in Baltimore. Had a few showers earlier. 48 degrees at Cockeysville, 46 at Westminster, 45 at Frederick, and temperatures in the low to mid-50s on the eastern shore. Even a little bit of a wind chill in a few spots like Westminster and Gaithersburg in the low to mid-40s. And look at some of those clearing skies trying to work in from the south and west. Again, the more those can persist, the better the chance it is. If we could get some of that aurora out there, you might be able to see some. We've got frost advisories across the Pennsylvania border. There's even some rain that's moving north. I know I was over at the Orioles game this afternoon for a Little League day with my wife and kids, and we had a brief shower come through. There's still some rain that's around Columbus and Dayton, Ohio, and that's trying to pinwheel south. That's not really ever going to make it. Some of the clouds will, but it will keep us a circulation, if you will, the storm system a bit cooler over the next few days. We're going to be kind of under its influence. Take a look overnight. Maybe a couple of sprinkles and light showers coming later at night after about 3, 4 o'clock, especially south and east of Baltimore. So with some of those clouds, it may be harder to see the aurora if it occurs. So your best chance is seeing it in the next couple of hours, likely. And by tomorrow afternoon, it only works into the 50s to near 60. And by the way, the Lyrids meteor shower also peaking tonight. So check that out, too. 40 becoming mostly clear overnight, 62 clouds and some sun for tomorrow. Look at your 7-day forecast. We're at 62 tomorrow, 63 on Tuesday, 65 for Wednesday. Could see that PM shower shot and another isolated shower or two on Thursday, 63. We stay in the 60s all the way into this upcoming weekend, which is a little below average. Even a chance of some periods of rain as we move through Friday and potentially some drizzle into Saturday. And by the way, again, if we can get some clearing out there and if the solar storm stays strong overnight, this is a post on my Facebook page. You should check it out. You can see here this little KP red index, this kind of red line. That's what we call the KP index. It has to be between about 9 here in Maryland and Virginia to about 7 along the New York-Pennsylvania line. And what we have right now is, let's see if we can pull that up right there, 7.67. So we're right at about 8. It's fallen off a little bit since just prior to sunset, but still that index is right in that zone there where we could potentially see aurora borealis here in Maryland. Again, look north and away from the city lights. Good luck.
Jonathan, thanks. Baltimore City saw a number of shootings this weekend, but it's not the only city dealing with gun violence. A look at some of the other violent incidents across the nation, including one that left 9 teenagers hurt. And still ahead, residents evacuated after that freight train derailment in Ohio are home, but they are now worried about their health. What has them questioning government guidance in tonight's Full Measure report. 7 people were hurt in shootings in Baltimore City this weekend. And Baltimore City, though, is not the only city rattled by gun violence over the past few days. In Texas, at least 9 teenagers are recovering following a shooting at an after-prom party. In Washington, D.C., at least 8 people, including a 12-year-old, were hurt in back-to-back shootings Friday night. Tomorrow, the so-called Tennessee Three, the lawmakers who drew national attention after protesting for stricter gun laws in the wake of Nashville's deadly school shooting last month, they are set to meet with the president to talk about gun policy. A frightening situation for air travelers in Ohio this morning after an American Airlines flight was forced to land due to an apparent bird strike. In a video from one of the passengers, you can see the plane shaking as one of its right engines spits out flames. The plane was en route to Phoenix, Arizona from Columbus, but it didn't get very far. The passenger who recorded the video says she noticed something was wrong no more than 10 minutes after takeoff.
It was just very frightening for everybody on the whole plane. And, you know, the pilot came on and he alerted us that he saw a family of ducks around the time we took off, and he thought that that was the cause of what was happening to the engine.
An American Airlines spokesperson confirms the emergency landing was due to a mechanical issue caused by a bird strike. No one was hurt. And a historic weekend for one Howard County High School's theater program. Why their production of Frozen is so very special. When a freight train derailed and caught fire in a small Ohio town in early February, some residents had to evacuate. Well, many are now home, but they are worried that promises they heard about air and soil contamination might not be as accurate as officials promised. Full Measure's Scott Thuman has more.
When it comes to tiny Rust Belt sections of the country still holding on to apple pie Americana, East Palestine, Ohio had it on lock. White picket fences and American flags in a small blue-collar town. That was until one cold winter night when that picture quite literally went up in flames. Just before 9 p.m. on February 3rd, an overheated wheel bearing on a Norfolk Southern freight train failed, sending 38 cars careening off the tracks. 11 of them carrying hazardous materials that ignited.
And the smoke, not only could you smell the different sensations and chemicals within the smoke, but you could tell by the way that the burning was that it was caustic and toxic.
2 days later, with the fire still smoldering, officials decided to release and ignite the remaining chemicals in 5 damaged cars to avoid a potentially deadly explosion.
This is our home.
Worried about their health, Carrie Lentz, her husband, and their 2 boys abandoned their picturesque home on Pleasant Street.
We were contemplating whether or not we should stay or go, but then we saw white smoke, and my husband had the knowledge and foresight to say, this is probably pretty bad, let's get out of here.
Just off of Main Street, the flurry of activity is around the clock. Remarkably, one of the first tasks completed was the replacement of track and reopening of the railway line by Norfolk Southern. What critics insist has been much slower is the digging up and hauling away of potentially tainted ground, adding worries. Hundreds of tons of contaminated earth sitting in piles as government agencies and states argue over where it all should go.
What if my children get cancer? They're young kids. If I keep my kids here, what if they get cancer?
Folks here don't trust what they call conflicting testing results from companies hired by Norfolk Southern versus independent ones.
Do you think people are lying to you?
Well, I don't know.
While lawmakers in Washington want more than just promises that things will be, quote, made right.
Will you commit to compensating affected homeowners for their diminished property values?
Senator, I'm committing to do what's right.
If they're to make it right, you want to know what exactly that means.
Yes. Not just make it right, define right. On all levels, health, interaction with the people, property value, continuous health care, monitoring. We did not do this.
A return to normal anytime soon here, the hope, but not the expectation. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in East Palestine, Ohio.
And you can watch Full Measure with Cheryl Atkinson Sundays on Fox 45 at 10 a.m. Walk-off winners for the second time in 3 games. The Orioles cannot be stopped. We are breaking down the series sweep of Detroit coming up next on Sports Unlimited. A very special honor for Long Reach High School in Howard County. Its theater program was one of just 50 high schools in the nation given the rights to produce the Broadway version of Disney's Frozen. The school won the rights through a national contest launched last summer. The show went on this weekend after months of rehearsals.
I feel like we've proved that we can do so much and we have the talent. Like, we were able to double cast it and have a pit orchestra for the first time in 20 years. And like, it's just so many people were involved.
Very, very, very proud of the cast. Everybody worked really hard. The community came together. We had elementary, we had middle, we had, of course, the high school students.
It's like such an honor. It feels like such an honor. Like, every day I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. What the heck? Like, I tell people, like, we go to festival every year, and they ask what show we're doing, and we're like, we won this contest to put on the Broadway version of Frozen, and it's crazy.
That's so cool. To win the contest, director Marla Blaskow wrote 4 essays on why she thought Long Reach should get to do the Maryland premiere of Frozen. No surprise. All shows were sold out. Congrats to them. Well, that's all the news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Morgan Adsett and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Thank you, Mary. Coming up tonight on Sports Unlimited, draft week for the Ravens. And Morgan, are the O's ever going to lose again?
Doesn't look like it. After 6 straight wins, the Orioles are the second best team in the American League.
None of that possible today without solid pitching on both sides. The O's break up a perfect game in the 7th, and Grayson Rodriguez tosses his best performance in the show.
We are 4 sleeps away from the start of the NFL draft with round 1. Former Raven Wally Williams joins the show to break down draft needs and the Lamar Jackson tag situation.
While he stands at just 5'5", there's a reason why his nickname is Tank. Feel the power of the left hook by West Baltimore's own. Coming up next on Sports Unlimited. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Sports Unlimited. She's Morgan Adsett. I'm Rocco DeSangro. We have officially entered Ravens draft week, and we'll have you covered on that throughout the show.
But first, the Orioles are just walking off winning machines, taking 8 of their last 10, 6 straight wins, shooting all the way near the top of American League standings, just second best behind Tampa Bay. Here's how Sunday unfolded against the Tigers. The O's honoring Miguel Cabrera. It's what likely his last game at Camden Yards. Miggy set to retire after the season. He got a warehouse brick. Grayson Rodriguez on the bump for his 4th career start, a much improved start to start the game after a single 3 straight